Have you ever wondered why something as natural and personal as masturbation can take on a whole new meaning when you reach your 72nd? At this stage of life, when the body no longer functions like it did in your 20s and the soul carries layers of lived experience, masturbation becomes more than a physical reflex. It turns into a way to feel alive again, to reconnect with yourself, and to soothe moments of loneliness. Many older men are beginning to realize that when done mindfully, masturbation isn't just harmless, it can be an essential part of maintaining both physical and emotional well-being. It can reduce stress, promote better sleep, improve blood circulation, and even support prostate health. But just like any other act involving the body, if practiced carelessly or based on outdated habits that no longer serve you, masturbation in old age can quietly become harmful, draining energy, disrupting emotional balance, and potentially affecting longevity. More doctors today are beginning to speak up, not to shame or scold, but to help you understand your body better, take better care of yourself, and age with strength and wisdom. Growing older doesn't mark the end of pleasure. It invites us to redefine it with knowledge and self-respect. In this article, we'll explore 5 common and often serious mistakes many older men make when it comes to masturbation and how to move beyond them in a way that is safe, dignified, and deeply respectful to your body and your journey. Mistake number 1: ignoring the new limits of the body. When masturbation becomes a burden instead of a release, there's a quiet paradox that begins to unfold in the body of a man after 70. On the outside, he may still appear composed, wise, and self-assured. But within, many physiological functions have begun to slow down, demanding a deeper sense of listening and adaptation. Among the most overlooked aspects is how a man relates to his own sexual needs, specifically, how he masturbates. Many older men still approach this act with the mindset, techniques, and urgency of their younger days: fast, intense, goal-driven, full of expectation, without realizing that their body is no longer the same body from 30 years ago. Geriatric specialists have often drawn a powerful analogy. If you keep using the old key to unlock a door that's had its hinges replaced, you'll always feel like you're doing it wrong when really, you just need a new approach. The aging male body hasn't just weakened, it's changed its entire way of responding to arousal, to blood flow, to nerve stimulation, and to recovery after sexual activity. What was once considered normal, intense stimulation, quick orgasm, heavy pressure can now become a burden on your cardiovascular system, your nervous system, and especially your pelvic floor. The sensations you used to ignore, like tension in your hips, mild pain after climax, or a pounding heart, are now signals. Your body is speaking. But too often, older men are not listening. The cost of trying to be the same: picture a heart that has beaten for over 70 years, a nervous system that has fired thousands of times in response to arousal, and blood vessels that are slowly losing their elasticity. To continue masturbating at the same pace and intensity as in your youth is like forcing a vintage car to speed down a winding mountain road. It's not only dangerous, but the wear and tear builds up silently over time. Common symptoms reported by men who continue their old style of masturbation include lightheadedness, dizziness, or heart palpitations after orgasm, discomfort or tightness in the lower abdomen, groin, or perineum, prolonged fatigue post-masturbation, especially if done in the morning when the body is underfueled. Additionally, the pelvic floor muscles essential for bladder control and sexual function are often being overused without awareness. As a result, some men over 70 begin experiencing urinary leakage, nighttime urgency, pelvic discomfort, or even slight incontinence when sneezing or coughing. These can all trace back to improper engagement of these muscles during self-stimulation, shifting the mindset from performance to presence. One of the most subtle yet damaging mistakes older men make doesn't lie in the body, but in the mindset they bring into the act. For many, masturbation remains a test, a way to prove that they're still virile, still capable, still a man. But that very expectation doesn't uplift the body, it burdens it. What could be a moment of release becomes yet another silent pressure. At this age, masturbation doesn't need to be a race. It should be a homecoming, a gentle exploration, a moment to feel the pulse of aliveness within you, not because you conquered it, but because you honored it. It's a chance to slow down, to breathe deeper, to discover that pleasure can be more than just climax. It can be connection, sensation, stillness, and even healing. A new approach, slower, smarter, softer. Experts suggest that men over 70 reimagine the way they masturbate, adopting a style that's aligned with the needs of an aging, but still deeply feeling, body. Change the timing. Avoid mornings when the body is dehydrated, low on energy, and blood pressure is still stabilizing. Instead, opt for the late afternoon or early evening after meals, rest, and hydration. Slow the rhythm. There's no rush. Take time to build arousal, to relax, to engage your senses with intention and patience. Incorporate breathwork. Deep belly breathing not only calms the heart, but enhances pleasure and reduces muscular tension throughout the body. Adjust your posture. Avoid prolonged side, lying, or spine stressing positions. Choose seated or gently reclined poses that support circulation and reduce pelvic strain. Listen to your lower body. If you feel tightness or pressure in the pelvic area after orgasm, that's your body's way of saying, pause. Give it rest. Recovery is no longer optional, it's sacred. Final thought. Don't try to be who you were, become who you are now. Here's a truth that's gentle but profound. You don't need to be who you once were to feel whole as a man. Your body may not be as strong as it was at 30, but it holds something far more valuable now: wisdom, sensitivity, and a deeper respect for its own rhythms. Masturbation, when approached with self-awareness and kindness, can become a ritual of renewal, not just for the body, but for the soul. It's not a sign of decline, it's a quiet revolution in how you relate to yourself. Let each time you touch yourself be not a test of whether you're still enough, but a reminder that you're still here, still feeling, still worthy of joy in its fullest, most conscious form. And you'll notice when you stop forcing your body will start smiling back. Mistake number 2. Overusing porn at 70 plus. When the brain becomes overloaded instead of stimulated. There's a quiet truth that few are willing to admit in their twilight years. Even at 70, desire doesn't disappear, it simply changes its shape. The craving for touch, intimacy, and connection still lingers, but the ways in which many older men seek pleasure have shifted dramatically with the rise of mobile technology and instant access to explicit content. In the quiet solitude of their rooms, with no one watching or judging, many men turn to pornography as a quick escape from loneliness. But what most don't realize is this: the brain at 70 is no longer the same as it was at 30. And the intense flood of stimulation brought on by modern pornography can slowly, silently erode one's capacity for joy, memory, and even real-life intimacy. At this stage in life, dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reward, is produced less efficiently and in smaller amounts than in youth. When bombarded by the high-speed, high-intensity visuals of contemporary porn, the aging brain is forced to squeeze out what little dopamine it has to keep up. Initially, this might feel stimulating, even thrilling. But over time, the brain becomes desensitized, a phenomenon known as dopamine tolerance. Much like a drinker needing more alcohol to feel the same buzz, older men may find themselves needing more graphic, more extreme, and often more disturbing material just to feel the same level of arousal. And this is where the damage begins, not just to libido, but to one's relationship with reality. The brain, repeatedly exposed to synthetic, exaggerated stimuli, gets rewired. It begins to respond only to artificial signals. So when a man finally finds himself next to real human skin, real breath, real warmth, he may feel nothing. Not because he no longer loves, not because he's lost interest, but because his mind has been numbed by unreality. At 70, the consequences of this pattern become even more pronounced. Many men begin to forget things. They lose focus, grow irritable, feel anxious, or inexplicably sad. They chalk it up to aging, but often chronic exposure to pornography, especially when used as a substitute for emotional connection, contributes to sleep disturbances, memory lapses, and even mild depression. For those already vulnerable due to grief, isolation, or a lack of social interaction, this habit becomes a trap. It deepens their loneliness instead of soothing it. Another silent consequence is the loss of confidence in one's own body. Porn rarely portrays older men. Instead, it presents a relentless parade of youthful, tireless, muscular performers. When an older man compares himself to these fantasies, his graying hair, looser skin, slower reflexes, he may feel broken, inadequate, or ashamed. What he doesn't know is that the content he's consuming was never meant for him. It doesn't reflect his needs, his rhythm, or his natural desires. But because no one told him that, he internalizes a sense of failure, feeling increasingly disconnected from his own body. So what's the answer? Should men over 70 swear off porn entirely? Not necessarily, but the way they engage with it needs to change. First, seek more age-appropriate stimulation. Instead of fast-cut videos with unrealistic scenes, explore erotic literature, emotionally rich short stories, or even personal sensual fantasies. Imagination, the very thing that porn steals from us, must be revived. Because it is imagination that anchors arousal in emotion, memory, and the real textures of life. Second, reconnect with the body itself. Rather than letting a screen dictate every signal, place your hands on your own skin, close your eyes, breathe deeply. Listen not to what you see, but to what you feel. Let pleasure be a slow, respectful journey back into yourself. This is not just about sex, it's about rediscovery, about treating the body not as an object to be judged, but as a home to be honored. And most importantly, pause when you notice dependency. If you find yourself turning to porn whenever you feel bored, empty, or alone, stop. Not to punish yourself, but to ask, what am I truly needing right now? Perhaps it's a phone call to a loved one, a walk in the sun, a return to a hobby long abandoned. Porn isn't inherently evil, but if it begins to replace human connection, emotional touch points, or self-awareness, it becomes a wall, not a window. Reaching 70 doesn't mean letting go of pleasure, but it does call for greater wisdom in how we seek it. Your brain deserves protection, your emotions deserve compassion, and your body, aged, perhaps, but still deeply alive, deserves to be loved on its own terms. When you choose to filter, slow down, and listen, you're not just saving your sexual health, you're restoring your sensitivity, your vitality, and your rightful access to joy, the kind that no screen can give, but that real life, lived fully and tenderly, always offers. Mistake number 3, neglecting prostate health, when silence becomes regret. At 30, most men never give their prostate a second thought. It's a quiet, hidden part of the body, rarely mentioned unless something goes wrong. But by the time a man reaches 70, the prostate begins to speak not through words, but through subtle signs. More frequent nighttime urination, a weaker stream, a vague pressure in the lower abdomen. And yet, many men continue living as though they're still 30, even in their most private acts, like masturbation. When practiced mindfully, masturbation can actually support prostate health. It promotes blood flow, clears out prostatic fluid, and helps prevent stagnation that can lead to inflammation. But the reality is, many men unknowingly engage in harmful habits. They use too much pressure, too much speed, and even worse, they believe that holding it in or lasting longer makes them stronger, just like in their youth. What they don't realize is that these actions place even more strain on a prostate that is already enlarged and growing more fragile with age. One of the most common conditions among older men is benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, a natural age-related enlargement of the prostate. As it grows, the gland presses against the urethra, making urination difficult, frequent, or intermittent. And if, on top of that, a man masturbates with excessive force or tries to control ejaculation through sheer willpower, the already overworked prostate becomes irritated, inflamed, and exhausted. Imagine the prostate as a loyal worker, someone who has labored in silence for 70 years. At this stage in life, he needs rest, gentle care, and appreciation. But instead, many men keep pushing him to work overtime, forcing him past his limits, and never allowing a moment's recovery. The result? A cascade of issues: dull aches in the lower belly, persistent urge to urinate without relief, disturbed sleep, and in some cases, chronic pelvic inflammation or early signs of more serious conditions that go unnoticed simply because discomfort has become normal. There's also a dangerous myth. Some men still believe that retaining semen or resisting ejaculation builds stamina and masculine control. But science says otherwise. Regularly suppressing the body's natural urge can cause abnormal pelvic floor contractions, which may lead to chronic tightness, nerve compression, and eventually pain during urination, sitting, or even intimacy. It's a form of tension that hides quietly in the background until one day it refuses to be ignored. Add to that the impact of rough handling masturbating while tired, stressed, or disconnected from desire, and the risk compounds. These conditions increase inflammation, damage delicate tissues, and compromise the entire reproductive system. Pain doesn't always show up right away, but like a roof with a slow leak, the damage accumulates until one day it breaks. One of the most urgent messages from urologists to older men is this: never dismiss even the smallest changes below the waist. Unusual color in semen, traces of blood, discomfort during ejaculation, or shifts in nighttime urination patterns are not just quirks of aging, they are warning signs. Not to scare you, but to wake you up, to help you live with more care, more presence, and more intention. So how can men over 70 masturbate without harming their prostate? First, slow down. Let your body guide the rhythm, not memories of youthful speed or pressure. Set a relaxing environment. Take your time. Use lubricant to reduce friction. Let arousal build naturally and gently. And when the peak arrives, don't fight it. Let it move through you like a wave, not a contest. Second, pay attention to how you feel afterward. If you feel light, relaxed, and sleep well, it's a good sign. But if you notice discomfort in your lower belly, urgency to urinate, or sensitivity while sitting, pause. Rest. And if symptoms repeat, seek medical advice. Third, schedule regular checkups with a urologist, not only when something feels wrong, but as a proactive act of self-respect. The prostate may be silent, but it is not invisible. Caring for it is one of the most profound ways to honor the body that has carried you this far. Finally, reframe your view of masturbation. It is not a race to relief, it is a quiet ritual of self-care. It is a moment to slow down, to touch your body with reverence, to feel instead of perform. In that stillness, you're not only protecting your physical health, you're healing parts of your emotional self that may have been neglected for decades. You've spent 70 years in a body that was built for strength. Now, it's time to live the years ahead with a wiser heart and a gentleness you fully deserve. Mistake number 4. Using masturbation to escape loneliness and stress. Instead of nurturing connection, at 70, a man is not only navigating the changes of his aging body, but also enduring waves of emotions that few others can truly comprehend. He may have lost a lifelong partner. He may now live alone in a home that once echoed with laughter, now filled only with the ticking of clocks and the occasional wind rustling through the window. And in that silence, masturbation, something once purely physical, slowly becomes a refuge, not for pleasure, but to forget, even momentarily, the crushing weight of emptiness. The problem arises when masturbation is used as a tool to avoid loneliness, stress, or emotional pain. It stops being an act of self-care and becomes a reflex, like snacking to forget sadness or mindlessly scrolling through a phone to avoid the stillness. At first, it feels harmless, but over time, it creates a closed loop. You feel empty to you, masturbate to you, feel briefly better to then even more alone when the sensation fades, and you do it again and again. Without even realizing it, it becomes a subconscious routine. There is nothing wrong with an older man seeking comfort in his own body. The mistake is in slowly replacing emotional connection with an act meant to distract. In the quiet of his room, that moment could be one of tenderness, introspection, and self-respect. But when it's carried out with feelings of boredom, emptiness, or despair, it becomes a deepening form of emotional isolation. Psychologists call this emotional displacement, when your mind redirects emotional pain into a behavior that offers short-term relief. The problem is, relief isn't healing. It postpones. And every time you postpone, you move further from the real work of healing, facing the pain, reconnecting, opening back up to the world. Picture a 5-year-old man who was once the anchor of his family, now waking up alone after losing his wife. He eats his meals alone. He falls asleep to silence. And in his grief, he masturbates not out of desire, but because it's the only moment that feels like someone is there. But when it's over, the loneliness returns deeper than before. Most men never speak of this. They grew up in an era where emotion was weakness and sexuality was about performance and strength. No one taught them that tending to their emotional needs is part of being a strong man. So they carry on, trapped in habits that quietly drain their emotional resilience. Mental health experts offer a simple but powerful piece of advice. If you find yourself masturbating not out of desire, but to numb a painful feeling. Pause, not to judge or punish yourself, but to ask, what do I truly need right now? Maybe it's a phone call to a friend, a quiet moment on the balcony with a warm drink, a slow walk in the park just to feel the world around you. Because sometimes what you truly need isn't orgasm but presence. A soul touch. A reminder that you're not alone. And just as important, forgive yourself if you've used masturbation as a way to escape. You are not broken. You were trying to survive, but now you have a choice to take a different path. One of reconnection, of honesty, of learning to speak gently with yourself. Turn your solo moments into an act of care, not escape. Light a candle, play soft music, place your hands on your body as if greeting an old friend. Let it be a ritual of kindness, not urgency, not performance, just truth. And if the loneliness feels overwhelming, don't hesitate to reach out to a therapist, a local group, a neighbor, a friend. You deserve connection, not just physical, but emotional, soulful connection. Old age is not the end of feeling, it is the beginning of feeling more deeply, of loving more gently, of caring for yourself more honestly. Masturbation is not wrong, but when it becomes a substitute for emotional fulfillment, it may mean what you truly crave isn't stimulation but presence. Your own presence with yourself. The presence of your heart, not forgotten, not buried. And from that place, your private moments can transform from routine to ritual, from silence to healing, from isolation to gentle rebirth. Mistake number 5, turning anxiety into a verdict. When masturbation becomes a test instead of a joy. At 70, there's a quiet truth that many men hesitate to face even with themselves. Changes in erectile function. Gone are the days when a glance, a touch, or a passing thought could spark instant arousal. Now, everything takes longer, feels less intense, and sometimes nothing happens at all. But the real challenge isn't the physiological shift, it's how one responds to it. Too many older men turn masturbation into a silent exam, a recurring performance review. Can I still get hard? Can I still last? Can I still finish? What was once a gentle, personal form of release and connection becomes a scoreboard, a pass-fail system where the only outcomes are pride or shame. And every time they fail, an unsatisfying erection, a delayed climax, or none at all, the creeping weight of disappointment grows heavier in the mind. Unchecked, that disappointment breeds a toxic loop of anxiety to dysfunction to avoidance. The more anxious you feel about performing, the more your brain shifts into fight or flight mode. Cortisol, the stress hormone, rises, canceling out the oxytocin and dopamine. Your body needs to feel pleasure. Your body no longer opens to intimacy, it braces against it. And in that guarded state, sexual arousal becomes not just difficult, it becomes nearly impossible. For many men who spent their lives leading, deciding, and protecting, losing control over something so deeply tied to their identity feels like a silent loss. But they don't speak of it. They don't seek help. Not because they fear the diagnosis, but because they fear what it might say about who they are. That they're no longer a man, and that not the physiology is what truly suffocates their sexual freedom. Here's what you need to know. Erectile challenges are not a death sentence for your sexuality. They are a signal, a call for change, not for denial. Sex at 70 isn't a contest of power or endurance. It's a slower, deeper journey of listening, adapting, and honoring a body that has loved and labored for decades. And if you choose to embrace those changes with compassion, then masturbation or any form of intimacy can still be sacred, fulfilling, and healing. To escape the cycle of anxiety to failure to pressure, you must redefine what success means. Success is no longer, did I stay hard? But, did I feel connected to myself? It's not, how long did I last? But, did I feel peace afterward? When the goal shifts from performance to presence, you stop fighting your body and start walking with it. In addition to reframing expectations, you must learn to speak kindly to yourself. Ask questions like, am I feeling pressure to perform? Am I doing this out of fear or genuine desire? Can I shift my focus from performance to sensation throughout my entire body? These simple questions open the door to emotional freedom and self-forgiveness. Something many men were never taught was part of being masculine. If erectile issues persist or cause distress, don't hesitate to talk to your doctor. Not to fix yourself, but to listen to what your body might be trying to say. It might be vascular health. It might be side effects from blood pressure or diabetes medication. It might be depression or emotional heaviness. Whatever it is, the act of seeking answers is not weakness, it is strength. You can also begin nurturing a different kind of self-intimacy. Relax your body first. Take a warm bath, breathe deeply, play soft music. Engage your whole body. Explore your breath, your belly, your back, not just the genitals. Use emotional arousal, not porn, but imagination, memory, or a tender story. Practice mindfulness. When critical thoughts arise, I'm not hard enough, this is taking too long, return to the breath and ask, what am I feeling in my body right now? And above all, remember, you have nothing to prove. Not to your partner, not to society, not even to yourself. Real masculinity is not the ability to perform like you did at 30. It's the courage to face your changing body without shame. To ask, what do I need now? Instead of, what can I still do? And to know, deep down, that though your body may age, your capacity for connection, pleasure, and emotional richness remains fully alive. Don't let the pressure to succeed rob you of peace. Don't let your most sacred moments with yourself become a scoreboard. Let them be a gentle embrace, a place of safety, slowness, and reverence. You've spent a lifetime proving your strength. Now it's time to honor your softness. Masturbate not to pass a test. Masturbate to return home to a self that still feels, still hopes, still deserves joy in its own time, in its own way.